and gentlemen, you're still watching Cairo Local Time, and we are still in the economic file, and we start with the remittances from Egyptians working abroad continued their upward trend, rising by 33.2% during the July-April period of the fiscal year 2025 and 2026 to reach a record of $39.2 billion compared to around $29.4 billion during the same period of the fiscal year of 2024 and 2025, according to a report released by the Central Bank of Egypt. On a monthly basis, remittances increased by 44% in April 2026, recording around $4.3 billion compared to approximately $3 billion in April of 2025. Earlier in June, the Central Bank of Egypt announced that remittances from Egyptians working abroad recorded a strong increase during the first 9 months of the fiscal year 2025-2026, reaching their highest level for the period. Remittances rose by 32% between July and March of the fiscal year 2025 and 2026, reaching around $34.9 billion compared to nearly $26.4 billion during the same period of 2024 and 2025 fiscal years. Remittances from Egyptians abroad remain one of the key pillars supporting the Central Bank of Egypt's foreign currency reserves. Still in the economic file, where Egypt's trade deficit fell to $5.2 billion in July 2025 compared to $5.6 billion in the same month of the previous year, a 5.9% decline according to a monthly bulletin released by the Central Agency for Public Mobilization. The report stated that the value of exports rose by 2.9%, reaching $3.7 billion in July 2025, up from $3.6 billion a year earlier. This increase was driven by higher exports of several key commodities, including petroleum products, ready-made garments, pasta, and various food preparations, and pharmaceuticals and medical preparations. However, the value of some exports declined compared to the same months last year, most notably plastics in primary forms, fertilizers, fresh fruits, and crude oil. Meanwhile, the value of imports decreased by 2.4%, recording $9 billion in July 2025 compared to $9.2 billion in the corresponding month of the previous year. The Minister of Finance has launched the first mobile application for real estate tax services, which will be allowing taxpayers to electronically pay for electronically submit property declarations, make advance payments, settle outstanding dues, and request exemptions for the family's private residence. In a statement issued by Minister of Finance Ahmed Kojok, he said that for the first time, owners of multiple units will be able to submit a single tax declaration, adding that electronic payment receipts will be officially recognized. Kojok noted that the new real estate tax facilitation measures aim to simplify procedures and reduce burdens and obligations on citizens. These measures include raising the exemption threshold for the family's private residence to 8 million Egyptian pounds, up from 2 million Egyptian pounds. He added that the ministry is preparing a smart indicative pricing map for the valuation of built properties with the aim of unifying standards and ensuring fairness. To know more about the economic developments in Egypt and, of course, worldwide amid the latest political scene between the United States and Iran, we are joined over the phone with the economic and legal expert, Dr. Ayman Ghoneim. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Ayman.
Good afternoon to you, madam.
Dr. Ayman, finally the U.S. and Iran, they are reaching a peace deal, and of course the gas prices fell worldwide. How do you assess the consequences of this decrease in price?
Well, actually, the new peace deal in the Middle East its third wave of global optimism. And we've seen the effect of such optimism in the stock markets that reached record highs. The Dow Jones Industrial Average in the U.S. reached 51,671 points. S&P 500 reached 7,550 points, and Nasdaq exceeded 26,600 points. Actually, we all understand that the economic growth is to a great extent dependent on the confidence of investors and consumers. So it's to a great extent dependent on the sentiments of the investors and consumers, because this is what affects the consumer and investment expenditure.
Yes.
And the whole world now is optimistic about the consequences of such peace deal. And also we've seen a very significant improvement in the energy market. Brent oil price, for example, declined to $78 per barrel,
yes,
from as high as $115 per barrel during the intense period of the war. It's still above, of course, the $73 per barrel at the beginning of the war, but it's approaching that level, and this means that most of the risk premium that was calculated and assessed by the markets on the oil has been alleviated. And again, this shows a positive sentiment, and this shows that the world can overcome and recover from the effects and repercussions of the war quickly.
Right. Dr. Ayman, we have numbers here where the Egyptian expatriate remittances hit a record of $39.2 billion in the first 10 months of the fiscal year of 2025 and 2026, which is quite a record. So in your opinion, as an expert in economic and legal matters, what's your comment on this magnificent increase?
Well, actually, we're expecting that the positive repercussions of signing of the peace deal, of course, such positive outcome has to affect the Egyptian economy, especially in the inflow of tourism on one hand. After, of course, the improvement that happened in tourism in 2025 due to the opening of the new Grand Museum. In 2025, our tourism reached a record high exceeding $15 billion per annum. Also, we're expecting an increase in the influx of foreign direct investment with the new positive sentiments, and especially also that the war proved to everybody that Egypt is one of the important anchors of peace and stability in the Middle East.
Right. Actually, that's true. Egypt has proven itself as a very stable ground for investments in a region that has been going through quite a lot of conflicts recently, but we are approaching a peace deal soon, and we are looking forward to see some peace in the area. In the same context, we also want to know the Egypt's exports rise to $3.7 billion in May of 2026. How do you weigh the state's efforts in preserving the economic process amid this current regional developments?
Well, actually, we all know that we have in Egypt an objective, a long-term objective of reaching $100 billion of non-oil exports per annum, and we don't expect that such goal to be unrealistic. Actually, it's highly realistic based on the fundamentals of the Egyptian economy. We will not be less than Vietnam, for example, that was bombarded by napalm in the 1960s, and today it's exporting by more than $450 billion per annum, and most of its exports include electronics, include high technology products, telecommunication products, and other sophisticated products. So In Egypt, we're trying now hard to reach to this level, and we're well equipped to reach this level, especially with the large improvements in the infrastructure, in the road networks, in the power plants, and in the power networks that took place during the term of President Abdel Fattah Sisi since 2014. Egypt has been transforming to convert its economy from being a rentier economy into becoming a production, service, and export-based economy. The Egyptian competitive advantage actually has been accumulating and building. Of course, to add to the natural competitive advantage that we have, if we can say so, regarding, of course, our geopolitical position in the crossroads between the East and West, and controlling the main maritime trade routes between Asia, Southern Europe, and North America on one hand. And on the other hand, of course, we've been accumulating other competitive advantages, including, as I said, the improvement in our infrastructure, the Suez Canal Economic Zone, with its 6 ports and 4 industrial areas, as well as, of course, the facilities granted by the government to foreign direct investment, especially in the manufacturing sector and in the export-based industries. Also, and we have to admit that the depreciation of the Egyptian pound, which is, of course, a natural result of having high imports versus our exports, but such depreciation contributed to increasing the competitive advantages of the Egyptian factors of production, so as to attract foreign direct investment on one hand, and it also increased the competitiveness of our local production versus importation, so as to replace imports, and versus the foreign producers, so as to increase exports. So all these factors combine together to create competitive advantages, and it's expected, especially with the euphoria now that's covering the whole world, and the wave of optimism and the wave of improving the sentiments of the investors. It's expected that we can attract more foreign direct investment in the near future, especially in the production and export-based industries, so we can increase our exports more.
Yes, Dr. Ghoneim, we do definitely hope this reflects back on Egypt with more investments coming. In the same context, Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources Karim Badawi said that Egypt holds the world's 3rd largest phosphate rock reserves, with geological reserves estimated at 3.1 billion tons, which provides a strong foundation for expanding the phosphate fertilizer production. Concerning that, how is this going to reflect on the Egyptian economy, especially that Egypt is going to be leveraging its phosphate reserves, and that is to boost exports, of course, support the food security, and expand the economic growth in general? How are we going to see that reflecting on the Egyptian economy, and how is it going to be reflecting eventually on the Egyptian citizen?
Well, we have to remember the instructions given by President Abdel Fattah Sisi that we have to stop exporting raw materials, and we have to export them in the form of finished goods. This, of course, to increase the revenues that we generate in foreign currency. And therefore, it's very good that we think of our natural gas reserves in terms of producing fertilizers and producing other forms of petrochemicals, and supporting our industrial growth. Actually, the issue of food security is very important to the world, and we all know that many places in the world, they suffer from food scarcity, and this, of course, contributes to increasing the price of fertilizers, and especially, of course, during the time of energy crises. But even in peacetime, even in good times, having a strong fertilizer industrial sector is very important, first for our exportation, and second and more importantly, to support our agricultural growth. We're talking about the new Delta project on 2.2 million acres in the Western Desert. We're talking about the North Sinai development project on 620,000 acres east of the Nile, extending from the eastern branch of the Nile, the Damietta branch, to North Sinai. All these projects, they require high consumption of fertilizers, and that's why it's expected that in the coming future we will make the best use of our natural gas reserves in supporting our industrial growth and supporting our agricultural growth and in generating more income to the economy.
Yes, Dr. Ayman Ghoneim, thank you for your significant remarks and notes on the current economic developments in Egypt and worldwide. We had the pleasure to speak to Dr. Ayman Ghoneim, the economic and legal expert. Thank you very much for watching this edition of Cairo Local Time on Nile TV International. I'm Dr. Yahya, and I carried you through the episode.